Finance Committee meeting. Open session, public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be recorded. All right, let's do our usual first order of business on the minutes. So do we have a motion for the, approve the minutes?
I made that one correction and took out the floating number.
It was just a formatting thing that I saw. I do read them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I second that.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, roll call, Scott, aye.
Mary, aye.
Cliff, aye.
Julie, I.
All right, approved 4-0. All right, I think the only order of real business here is to finish off our town report, unless there's anything else that came up in that.
I was just going to briefly
Since we talked.
share at the select board meeting the other night. We had some interesting and lively discussion. We had a couple of 2-1 votes, but ultimately everything did pass. And one of the 2-1 votes was to fully fund the school's capital request. So I would like a revote on line 107 because that is the capital assessment for Tohoto that we had at $48,000. And it turns out that the debt number, I don't know if we talked about this last week. The final numbers that came in from the schools for the debt repayment were wrong. So when I took her original debt repayment amount and subtracted out when I took the full capital amount, subtracted out the debt, I was left with $48,000. Well, when I confirmed those numbers late last week, I got back, no, it's $38,253 for the capital assessment and $459,935 for the debt repayment. And that is according to the debt schedule. I'm understanding that there was some type of refinancing that was done with the debt. I have asked for a copy of the debt schedule that goes out either 20 or 30 years so that moving forward, I have that. So I can just plug that number right into the budget. So I'll be receiving that shortly. But that did affect the budget because there was, and this is the confusing part, right? Because we take the debt out of the operating budget. It's not a debt exclusion. The debt repayment for Tohoto was actually within budget debt. And so when the capital lowered, but the debt repayment went up, that left an almost $10,000 deficit in the budget. So where did it need to come out of? The best place was health insurance because we were wavering between funding 2 extra positions and 3 extra positions because we have people come on and off the plan all the time, and we've been having a lot of new employees and been hiring, new folks. So the prudent thing is to try to have those spots available, and then it just flows to free cash if they end up not being needed. Because the other option is if all of a sudden 3 people come on health insurance, then I have to come before the FinCom for a reserve fund transfer. So we were hoping for 3. That was on the higher end, and wanting 2 for sure. And so now we're settling at close to 3. So that's, I think we're in a pretty good place with the health insurance, and so I was able to make that adjustment there. So basically, and I probably should have plugged it in, but I didn't because I thought it was going to be a quick explanation, but then I talked too much. The health insurance did go down. That's line 114. I should share it. Cliff, you didn't remind me to share my screen.
Well, I like other people to partake of that joy.
Well, hold on.
You.
Then you can all see it. There we go.
Oh, I love that.
Tonight
Look
the
at that.
revotes are in green. Is
The-
that right, Kristen?
Yes.
Okay.
So the select
Green for
board.
money. Green for money.
Yes, the select board is yellow for caution. No, and the FinCom is green for money. So these are your revotes. So ignore 105 for the moment, please.
Okay.
So we're just talking about the 107, which is the Tohoto capital assessment going down to $38,253. And we're talking about line, let me know if I'm going too fast, Julie. We're talking about line 108 going up. That is the debt, the Tohoto debt. That's going up to 459,935. Then to balance that out, we're talking about line 114, health insurance and dental, chapter 32B, going down to 832,525. And that balances us again.
So 107 increased how much? The cap.
It was just shy of 10,000. I think it was $9,997.
Okay.
That decreased, and then line 108 increased by that amount. I didn't put it in there. I just put in their actual numbers.
That change should not have affected the health insurance bit. That's a separate matter.
It shouldn't, but see, we break out the debt and the capital, but in their mind, that's all one because it's capital debt. But we funded the debt within the budget. Uh-oh, what am I doing?
Off of our
You're
standard
fine.
levy.
Mary, I can't hear you.
Oh, we got to hear you, Mary.
Can I move this?
All right, don't step on my foot when you're doing
Then you'll really
I
hear
was
it.
going to
Or
say,
my-
she'll get you
or
with
my-
her,
or
with
my
her
computer.
crutches.
it. All right, so I'll talk to the microphone. There we go. It was just pointed the wrong way, right? I just have to be pointed at.
Directional, yep.
Yeah, okay.
So because the debt repayment is part of the operating budget, whereas capital is free cash, the fact that the capital went down did essentially not a whole lot. But the
Got it.
fact that the debt went up meant I had to find $10,000 in the operating budget to offset it.
Okay.
So I did express my displeasure with having to readjust my budget again. I'm now seeing like spreadsheets in my sleep because every time I turn around, I have to readjust this budget. Unfortunately, largely based on things changing at the school level. But we now have our assessment letter. It's in writing. It's final. It's done. So this is it. And by the way, the warrant with this budget goes to the printer on Tuesday. So we are very close to being done.
So the debt repayment changed as a result of a refinance, did I hear you say? I'm sorry.
From what I understand, and I don't have all the details, Nancy is out due to a personal emergency. There was a refinance of the debt that occurred for the Tohoto building, which is not entirely uncommon. You're now 12 years into the
No.
debt, and obviously interest rates and everything have changed substantially. So there was some type of refinancing that went on. That debt schedule changed as a result of that. The old number was initially used. This is the actual
Okay.
corrected number, and it is a bit higher.
The only reason I asked that was we went through a debt refinancing while I was on the committee. And it actually went down because of the times, the rate was down.
Yeah.
So those are for very short periods of time then.
You can do bands, the short-term borrowings, or you can do long-term. My understanding is this is off of the long-term. So whether it was, and like I said, without seeing the
Yeah,
20-year
right,
schedule,
right.
I can't tell you exactly where it was off, but I have been assured that this is
So
the
you will have
correct
that
number.
document.
And I will now have
that
that
you'll be able
document.
to reference going forward. All right, that's really
Exactly.
important.
Absolutely. So don't quote me on the refi. That may not have been exactly what resulted in this issue, but I understand that may have been part of this process that led to a change. However, it is unusual, as you pointed out, for the debt to go up, or for you to refi debt and it go up. So it could also be that we were looking at a different year. I'm not entirely certain, but
Yeah.
this is the number that came in the certified assessment letter.
Okay.
So this is the number that needs to be on the town meeting warrant.
Okay.
Mary loves me right now.
No, it's, you're patient.
I'm trying.
You're
I'm
patient
really
with this
trying.
process. Yeah, the explanation's clear, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Agreed.
Clear
The
as mud.
explanation is clear, thank you.
Yeah. So what I'd be looking for just initially would be a revote then on lines 107, 108, and 114 to just reflect that movement of the $10,000.
So 114 went down
Correct.
by about approximately 10.
Correct.
Okay.
In
107 went down, 108 went up, and
Yeah.
114 had to go down to offset 108.
How How much did 107 go down next to Tohoto capital?
It went down by that almost $10,000, but unfortunately, just reducing that doesn't take care of the operating budget problem because that's coming out of free cash.
Right, okay, so the number on there's.
It was
It was
48,250.
48, and so it's
Yeah.
gonna be 38.
38,253 now. And just for your viewing pleasure, I will show you the assessment letter. Because last year we didn't get one until July, so it's really good that we have one. We had it on March 22nd, as required by the regional agreement. And, oh, I gotta stop share and share again. I hate it that it won't switch between screens. When you switch documents, it won't switch it. There we go. Because I made it nice and big so everyone can see it. Make it even bigger. So this is the operating assessment for BMS and Tohoto. And then as you can see, they put the debt and capital assessments together by school. So that is the total assessment right there for FY25. I also have been talking to DESE, to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and Scott, I forwarded an email to you today.
Yep.
I need to give them a call tomorrow because I thought their email was a little ambiguous, but the gist of it was that the impression I got from reading it was the 383, they can't tell us that the 383 goes into our assessment and carry that over to 25.
Well, yeah, I mean, particularly I think I got from it was, there's no such thing as it can't go down. Because that's what
Yes.
basically their argument is, whatever a previous year's assessment, their budget can only increase, never decrease.
Right.
And
So they can't
which is
dictate to
totally-
us.
Right, and the fact that their attorney seems to have gone totally silent on that email thread is, to me, an indication that they can't find anything to support their argument, and
Or you had a phone call, which is not documented.
yes. So yes, you can do the phone call, we'll get our confirmation, but yes, from what I read on that too, that we are not outside of they're not protected by some legal mandate on this.
My amateur explorations, this is consistent with what I expected.
Okay. So I'm going to call them tomorrow. My biggest concern is us having to do a last minute budget scramble and cut the budget by 200,000, which I have this fear of having to do. So already in my mind, I've started thinking about it. I refuse to put it on paper because then I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I'm not going to do that because I'm superstitious. So I know we had the scramble at the last minute last year. I guess it wouldn't entirely surprise me if we had a little bit of a scramble this year. I am hoping that is not the case, and the answer from DESE today made me feel a little more confident that that won't be the case. But this has got a month to play out still and see how this all unfolds. So, and the fact that they still haven't been certified for FY24 plays into this too, right? Because the DESE still can't tell me what their FY24 certified number is right now because they're still working on it. So, but the fact that we can go down, it sounds like, should help us out regardless of what we get they get certified
wasn't
at.
one of the points that they made last time was that we have an obligation to a minimum level of funding?
Correct, or to at least level fund.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but there's basically a state
Oh,
number.
minimum local contribution.
Yeah, which is a totally different number.
That's a different
Which
number.
also, I
We're
mean,
way above.
the
It's a
email
different
came from Megan,
calculation.
and at this point, I don't trust anything not that she says things in a dishonest way, but I don't think she understands most of what she says, and then she puts it out there as if it's fact.
Well, what I'm saying is that there is a number out there.
Yes.
That
That we are
but
well
we are
above.
well above that number.
Julie, I circulated those numbers, when I sent Excel
Yeah.
charts and I said, this is chapter 70 funding, this
Yeah.
is circuit breaker funding. I sent them to this committee, and those are reports I pulled, they were online. They're DESI reports, they're standard public financial reporting. So you can see those numbers in there. You can see the foundation budget, you can see the minimum local contribution, you can see the net student spend. And this district is way above anything the state mandates in
Yeah.
terms of our funding per pupil, per activity. We're fine. So there's no, and I was happy to hear this dialogue today about Kristen's contact to DESI, because it seems consistent with other information you can gather.
Yeah.
Right, well, and, understanding that there is a learning curve and there are a lot of new people on the school committee, but I echo your concern, Scott. I mean, we were told you can't apply for MSBA for 2 different buildings. I've worked with MSBA for almost a decade now, and we used to put in for every school in town almost every single year. So I went, is it really different because it's a regional school district? That sounds a little odd to me, because why would you penalize a regional school district and let them not do something that a school department is allowed to do? So I did reach out to DESI directly on that, and their answer was yes, of course, you can apply for more than one building. So I'm not really sure where this swirl of misinformation is happening, but I think this is going to have to be a trust but verify situation going forward.
And there may be another factor too, Kristen, because the school committee changed counsel after Superintendent Zangi's departure.
True.
And so there may have been a shift into council that isn't as familiar with regional district law.
Yeah, they're more known for labor law.
I believe they went back to the law firm
You think?
that we stopped using.
And probably for reasons, right?
Yeah.
I believe. I'm not certain of that, but I believe so.
Okay.
I know the president when they're using is Miracle Connell,
Yeah,
and that's what you were using at one time.
yeah, at one time.
Okay.
And Miracle Connell should know, because they're always at the state conference for school committees. They're
They're a
a
presence,
presence. They're
yeah.
a presence. They
That's
should-
comforting.
They should know better.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are a firm that is primarily known, at least in my experience, for labor law. But there are, firms grow and they add, and, I am not an expert on school council, but I had Merrick O'Connell in my previous community for a long time as town labor council. So that's my,
Myrick is pretty well known as a business firm, business law
Ah.
firm in the Worcester zone.
We were using a law firm that was very familiar with small school communities in Western Mass and Central Mass. They represented all of the small places because that's what we were.
right.
And they were housed in Western Mass, and so they kind of knew all of these towns and these districts, and they understood what our challenges are, which are not the same challenges that large school systems have. They're just
Right.
very different places,
And it
and
does.
the cultures are different.
And it does make a difference. We did make a switch as of July 1 to exactly that, to a smaller boutique municipal law firm, if you will, that has 5 smaller communities that they work with, Holden, Leicester being one of them, some of the smaller ones in Western Mass. And I just think that understanding the nature and the needs of smaller communities, it's very, very different. And when you're with the big firm, you're the little fish in the big pond. And I've noticed definitely an increase in service, and it has been working very well, and hopefully everyone will see that at town meeting.
Right.
So,
I mean, you go with a big firm, unless you are big yourself, you are so at the bottom of their priority list.
right. And you pay more for it, too.
Yes,
And I
you
don't
pay-
think that's
You
necessary.
pay more to get worse service, basically.
So
So-
we want the small mahogany desk, not the big mahogany desk.
Exactly.
I
The
think-
boutique mahogany
I
desk.
think we were looking for a pine table when
With the sawhorses and the flag
There
for the
you go.
door.
You know,
Particle board.
So, I mean, that's all on 107, 108, and 114, and then if you want to
Can you
vote
share
on
it back
those,
now?
yes, I can. If you want to vote on those, then I can talk separately about 105.
Would you like me to make a motion?
I
Are
think
you,
that'd
are
be
you gonna
dandy.
do it, Cliff? Who's gonna do this?
if I don't see my screen soon, I won't be able to help. No, I'm just kidding.
Hold on, hold on, I'm going as fast as I can. Okay, there we go.
Go ahead, Mary. Knock it out the park.
I move that we approve budget lines 107, 108, and 114 as recommended by the town administrator
And the select board.
and the select board,
And approved by the select board.
Yes.
and approved by the select board. Thank you. Yeah.
I will
There's-
second that amazing motion.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that?
No.
Okay, roll call, Scott, aye.
Mary, I.
Cliff, aye.
Julie, I.
What is it? See, now I'm covering the date here.
4-0.
327, okay. Okay, so there was much debate, it was hotly debated, the Capitol, as Scott and Julie were in attendance, so they are aware. Berlin Memorial Capital requested amount is $543,132. Now, if I go to my free cash plan and I plug in the $38,253 for Tohoto, I'm going to make this bigger. We don't need the whole thing. There we go. You can see that a little bit better. So if I go into my free cash plan for capital, which the recommended guidelines are up to 30%, and again, that is the FinCom's recommended guidelines. That is not a hard and fast bylaw or a rule. It is good to stay within guidelines. There are reasons sometimes for going outside of the guidelines, which we have seen and we did last year. So up to 30% would be $533,362. And as you can see, Capital has allocated $67,900 for the paving of the 1870 driveway and the Brown Barn demo and parking at South Commons. Then both the Select Board and the FinCom have voted to meet the Tohoto capital request at $38,253. So that just leaves us left with what do we do at BMS? So if we're strictly adhering to the guidelines, we would have $427,209 $427,209 left for BMS, and their request is $543,132.
Or like 116.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna put it in here as, so we are off by 80. No, why is that not? Oh, because I hid this column. That's why. I want to make it easier to see. No. I see what I did. Okay, why is that not? That doesn't look right to me. So if they asked for 543,132, we technically have 427,209 to give. So that's a difference of, what did you say, 140?
116.
116, yep, okay.
Approximately.
Oh, I know what it's doing. It's doing it based off of the 24, not off of the difference between the 25 requests. And so if we put in, let's do it this way. Let's do, I just wanted to get that exact amount of what the difference is between the two requests. 427, 209. Oh, of course, it's not going to give it to me, but that's fine.
It's about 115,000.
Yeah. I was trying to give an exact number.
Okay.
There we go, 115,923. So,
So it's 116,000.
basically exactly. Scott does math in his head much better and much faster than I
I
do.
actually had a lot of the numbers already written.
Oh,
here,
you
so
okay? Thank you for making me feel better.
I've got some advantage here.
Thank you. So I will tell you what capital did last year, because there were several large capital requests from the school. Was they did forego putting the 10% into capital stabilization, which is that 177,787. So that is an option. If capital is so inclined, as the select board has recommended 2-to-1 to fully fund that line item, I would recommend, rather than taking money out of stabilization or doing anything weird, so we don't have to add an article to the warrant at this point and reopen the warrant, I would recommend just putting less into capital stabilization. So that's kind of my assessment. And I really can go either way on this. I mean, they're very late. I am sick of redoing my budget, and it's open to you all how you'd like to, if you still want to vote on town meeting floor after capital.
I would rather vote on town meeting floor because capital is meeting tomorrow.
Yep.
And from the January meeting, when they were basically tying everything up for the year, there had been a strong incentive to have money carry over into next year because of the facility assessment
Very true.
that came out with a lot of other things that we're going to have to deal next year. So even predicting what they're going to vote tomorrow. And then the other problem that came up is, as far as I know, have they gotten the actual quotes on the biggest piece, the HVAC?
No, not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything.
Because that's like 400,000 that is not fully documented yet.
Correct.
Not to say that the school is wrong, but there's no support for that. That's the actual cost of the project.
I think given the track record on getting these numbers and getting them right, I'm with you, Julie. Just that we're not getting, we're getting constant corrections to numbers, and I think that holding off
Just
and.
that piece of information alone, that they don't even have accurate
Yeah,
costs.
yeah. It's the cart in
Doesn't-
front of the
yeah.
horse. And I think it doesn't hurt to get up at town meeting, we as the finance committee get up at town meeting and say we didn't have information from the schools in
Mhm.
time to put a recommendation in the warrant. And I think we need to keep saying these things
Mhm.
because it's real. You can't put together a municipal budget with this kind of behavior.
Right.
It's not fair to Kristen or to us to have to.
But it's also not fair to, I mean, one of the things that's been bothering me, I'm going to say it again, is when this is my first year following the capital planning, and everybody else who had capital planning projects got their things in early.
They did a
had them
great job.
prioritized. They came to our meetings, we discussed
Mhm.
what, given your druthers, what do you have to have this year? What's going to have to carry over? They had their 5-year plans.
Their
They
quotes.
they had their quotes. They were able to explain for the layman what every line item was.
I learned all about tasers.
There was a really great presentation.
It was-
on
it was
tasers.
great.
I never knew
The
what went
sergeant.
into buying.
Kudos to Sergeant Andre.
Right. I mean, basically you're
Yeah.
saying is like, you look at the others came through very professional, clear, and did their homework.
And even though we had all that money, they didn't get everything they asked for this year.
Correct.
They basically worked with us and said what they could carry over to the
Yes,
next year.
Yeah, which is, I think, fully appropriate. And I think I may be the only one in the room that was involved in creating these guidelines, but the town of Berlin use of certified free cash guidelines comes from state recommendations. Margaret Nardowitz encouraged us the previous town administrator encouraged us to put it together. We discussed this, we spent time on it, we voted
Yeah.
that, that we wanted these guidelines. And
Mhm.
so there's a lot of work that goes into that as well, and all of that goes to being fiscally responsible, which impacts the town's ability to borrow money and to operate.
Right.
I mean, we want to be a fiscally responsible town, so all of that comes together, and I think we can't reward people that don't get that.
Yeah, I particularly, I think the good point you make there is, see it is, they are guidelines, we can move outside of them, but we need people that have actually demonstrated they have accurate, detailed, and have done all the other steps before we start violating the guidelines.
Sure.
And just because people
Exactly.
are sloppy,
Yeah. Yeah.
late, I mean, negligent, I have no other description for it. And then we should not also move the guidelines? No. I mean, I would be very happy is like if it came down, they had the quotes, they had detail, they could answer all the questions. But they can't answer those questions, and then on top of it, here, we'll just make all the exceptions for you. And so I'm very much against of violating the guidelines based on, based on how the things have been presented to us.
I think that's fair. I will tell you, I did get a little information on the rebate. So I just do want to share that. They estimate it's about $100,000. So that's about a 25% rebate that they would get back. It may not come through until the year after next. So Carol said they would need to keep track of that in terms of a future capital reduction, because I did present that idea to them. But we are talking hypotheticals and nothing concrete at this point. However, she did note that the facilities director, Dan Ayala, and John Campbell, the BMS principal, will be at Capitol tomorrow.
Oh, good.
So we
Okay,
should,
that's-
hopefully Capitol will
that's
get a
good.
little more info. So we want to just leave
good
105 as it
Yeah.
is then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say
Please.
leave it as it is.
Then that's all I have for you.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay, we'll go home now.
Yay! My
Oh,
husband would be so happy.
We can do that as,
No, I know.
as quickly as possible.
I'm just kidding.
We got to do the
Well,
budget
actually-
report.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
can I also mention another thing? This is our last scheduled meeting.
Yeah,
So before we close for the night, if we need to schedule more meetings, we should decide which ones are going to be.
I think we ought to give ourselves a meeting the night of town meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Before the meeting. Sorry, I don't mean to jump
We
in
do a
front of you,
joint
Scott,
one.
No,
but-
Alex, you're right.
And
Like 7 p.m.?
whatever
Okay.
everybody
Yeah.
thinks is useful. I think the
because the town
meeting,
meeting's
doesn't
at
it,
7:30.
We do a joint
Town
one, I
meeting
believe,
starts
at
at
7
7,
with
doesn't
the select board usually.
is it 7 or
7:30.
7:30 is the meeting.
June, do they get together at 7:30 or 6:30 usually?
It usually depends on how much stuff you think you may have to discuss. But I think it usually was like a half an hour before, but again, it all depends on what you feel comfortable with.
You could probably say 7, and I don't think, June, we don't have any pressing reserve fund transfers that we see, at least right now, that would need to go through in the next month.
As of right now, I don't. The only ones that I know had been discussed was possibly Fred's for building repairs.
Okay.
Was the only one that was maybe higher on the list. But it would be nice if we could schedule a couple of meetings anyway, just for year-end line item transfers if needed, and we could always cancel.
Great. I do know of one more I did hear about today, potentially. There were some repairs to, now I can't remember if it's a fire truck or the ambulance, but it's amounting to close to $3,200 between the labor and the repairs. So the expense line item is going to run really tight for fire, and they may not be able to make it to May when we could figure something out. So that's a potential, and if those came through, we could call a meeting in April. But I think June's absolutely right. We should schedule some after town meeting too. Let's see. So if we did 7 on the day of town meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and then, let's see. And we can do, I think last year we did line item transfers that night because that is
Yes.
now after May
Yes.
1. So you could probably take a good amount of them then. Let's see. So that's May 6th.
And I would say if we had any transfers for that meeting, for annual town meeting, if we can do them ahead of time and maybe scan them over so everybody has time to take a look at them, so that way it won't take up as much time if there's questions.
That makes sense. June, would you say, like, you know, how close are we talking to like the end of the fiscal year? Do we want to talk for transfer? Should we do another meeting in May or should we schedule for June?
I don't know, maybe if we schedule one like maybe May 29th-ish,
That's what I was actually thinking was May 29th. Okay.
and then like maybe one mid-June, just in case there was a payroll issue anywhere. I don't expect it, but
Okay.
I don't know that.
Like the 12th or the 19th.
Is it?
I probably wouldn't be available on the 29th.
Oh, you're not available on the 29th. Okay.
So I don't know if June 5th would work.
We could do that.
I can do June 5th.
Okay.
I don't know about everybody else.
I think that's a better day. Yeah, Memorial Day is that week in May, so June 5th would be better.
Okay. And then do we want to maybe book the 19th as well?
Juneteenth.
Oh, that's Juneteenth. Just kidding. The
Yeah.
26th?
26th would be a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, do we really need the 26th? I mean, we do, or do you want to do it in July? Because at that point,
Well,
'cause we
I'm
have-
just thinking, we can always cancel it
Yeah,
if you needed to, just so that way if there was transfers that were gonna be needed, we could kinda force people to stay within a calendar date.
Okay.
So,
And what would be the latest July one we could do? The 10th?
well, the 10th
Yeah.
is last Wednesday. I mean, otherwise the 15th, which was a Monday, I don't know if the select board would meet. That would be the other option. But that would be literally the last.
Yeah. I think we should schedule for the 10th, because if
Yeah.
you guys pass it on the 10th, they can pass it on the 15th.
Yeah.
Then we don't have to be trying to get everybody together on the
So
same day.
we only have one meeting then?
6/5, 6/26, and 7/10.
6/5, oh, okay.
Those will be in
The
minutes,
July
right?
one would be
Mhm.
your
Thank you.
last minute FY24 matters.
Got it.
Does
Thank you.
anybody have their term coming up at the end of June? I know
That's a good
Julie
question.
was just re-upped. I
I
know
do.
I might be.
yours is up.
Okay, so,
Just to make sure we don't have two people that are up and we have difficulty.
There's my half paper.
So
I'm
you're-
up June 30th, 2024.
as is Cliff?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because he
I was
only signed
appointed
up
to
for
a
1 year.
one-year term.
Jeez.
The 3-year term, Shane had.
Yeah.
So if we don't reappoint by June 30, we don't have a quorum
We don't have a quorum.
as of
Could we
July.
ask Barry to reappoint people on town meeting?
I could bring little half pieces of paper for him to sign. I could
Yeah.
gin them up for him.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
That might not be a good idea.
No? I actually saw him the last 2 days, and I didn't even think of it, but,
But we do have, I mean, you can see him at town
We-
meeting, but
we
we'll
need
just
to
make
get in
sure,
touch with
yes. I
him.
mean, I don't think, I'm not expecting any issue other than just making sure we don't have any communication issues of,
right,
but we had the 26th, so,
and we have a vacancy, so
and
that
we have the
could be,
vacancy.
okay.
Thank you. I didn't want to leave this to the end.
Yeah, as everyone's running out the door going, I don't want to big dates now.
I don't want to think about it ever.
Exactly. FinCom done forever.
No, I think it's great that you're pushing that.
Yes, Julie, thank you, I appreciate it too.
Yeah.
It's almost like graduation, like school's out for the summer, FinCom 2024, done.
You're so
Out.
close, almost done.
Almost done, almost. All right, so I think that just leaves your,
The
Report.
Yeah, so, I don't know, do you want to bring up the report?
I
The
sure
last
can.
email that,
do I bring up the one that Mary worked on?
yes.
All right.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that later in the report that we might want to plug in numbers and stuff.
Yes, well, that's what I'm
Because
thinking
I
about
didn't
right
get to
now.
that part when I was,
I was just saving some of the numbers to update,
okay.
and we can update those now.
Can I point out something? The COLA was 2% this year.
Okay, next. Well, that would be the first number, correct?
All right, if you give me
Who's
one second.
Who's the scribe on the document? Are we gonna?
I can do it if you want.
Yeah, because
Makes
you
me
can,
happy.
you're
Yeah, you can see
projecting
it on.
it.
Yep. I just got to reshare because I downloaded it. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so 2%. Yep. And I haven't had a chance to review it yet.
That appears in more than one place, doesn't it? Maybe not? I don't know.
We'll see. It might appear someplace later. But the 2.5 shows up a lot because that was with the levy, so
Right,
that
right,
also can cause confusion. So on the second paragraph of the regional school district, there, just before the approximately 383K, I wanted to update that to say that it was agreed to provide an additional 383K in free cash to fund the BMS assessment.
Gotta make that a tiny, that's so big I can't like see it. How, isn't that weird? Okay, there we go. Is, to provide an additional, where am I looking at?
Scott, I tinkered with that
Okay, maybe you
to
already
use the,
updated it
well,
here.
but what you just said, the additional piece, I didn't put in there, but, like, I put in the full amount, I put in the actual dollars, not the,
I opened yours up. Where did it go?
Where, which sentence is that? The first sentence?
it's the, after it says regional school district, the first sentence in what I worked on, voters approved 382,715.
Yeah.
But Scott wants to say approved an additional,
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
which I think is an important point.
Can we say in one-time funds from free cash?
Yes, we can
Yeah.
even further update that, because one thing I liked about this letter was when I was reading the end part, the summary, which I haven't touched at all, was, we had the agreement that we came through on this
Yes,
thing.
yes, it's in last
detailed.
year's-
So it's in writing, I mean, besides,
Yeah.
it's not like you have to go back just to get video of the town meeting or that stuff. It was right there,
Mhm.
which is the importance of making this, descriptive enough.
But it also goes to the point that the budget was set, and then this was an add-on.
Yes.
And I think that's part of what message that we're trying to deliver. That whole section in yellow needs to be redone, Kristen. It's all last year's text,
Okay.
and I don't
Yeah,
know.
anything I put in yellow was stuff that needs to be updated.
Well, if you guys want to just give me some general guidelines or points, I can take it and run with it too. I can- happy to
Well, let's
help.
just go through some of the numbers that are updated. So if you go down to the last paragraph in the regional school district capital assessments,
Yep.
let's see what it is. So now after the numbers we just changed. So let's go through the first one here. So the capital assess are recommended with a decrease of 51, let's see. Now, capital BMS request is, so actually it's gonna be a little bit adjusted, right? Because
Yeah, it's 116.
Tohoto,
Right. 150. What is it? 115. I came up with that number somewhere.
well, Tohoto went down 10,000, right?
Yes.
So
So that's how we got to the 115.
Right, so that number, I say, with a decrease of 51K at BMS and must be 136K at Tohoto then now?
Hold on.
Why did I lose?
It's a decrease over FY24 of 173,346.
Combined?
Nope,
between
just
two?
for Tohoto.
Is that all Tohoto or Berlin's assessment?
No, that's Berlin's assessment. So last year they requested and received, or they received $211,599 in capital for Tohoto from us. Now this year they requested 38,000, so that's a decrease of 173,346. But I don't know how you want me to present that information. You want me to add both of because when you add in the increase for BMS, if that kind of becomes almost not quite a wash, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, it's like matter of like how you, I mean, I was trying to get more or less my thoughts out there and maybe it needs to be rewritten in some way. But I mean, I just started out by just indicating the capital assessments are recommended with a decrease of 51,000 BMS and 126,000 or over FY24, right? It should say over FY24. And then the BMS capital assessment request is 543,132. I know that's accurate. A 16% increase for FY24, and 125,904, which I know now that number is
115,923.
115,923.
Yep.
More than recommended.
How about more than available per the recommended free cash guidelines?
Yes. Yeah, definitely can, because then, we talk about, well, and I don't think, again, we haven't voted on this one yet, so it's really not recommended, right? We have not put
Yeah,
any
it's
number
just-
in there. so-
Right.
I was waiting to see.
I was,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
it's,
It's not
um,
recommended.
Yeah, so if I just say
As of now.
115,923 more than available per the FinCom committee's recommended free cash policy.
yeah, so I mean, you could indicate what is available there.
Okay, which
Would be 427,209.
Which would
Nicely done.
only allow for 427,209?
Yes.
Mhm.
209 in remaining funds to be allocated to BMS. Does that sound right?
Right, and the Tohoto capital assessment, how do I say, increase, capital assessment matches the request. Tohoto capital assessment increase matches the request at, probably shouldn't say increase there, but the Tohoto capital assessment matches the request at 38,253.
Yep. Oops,
Mhm.
shoot, I went down.
For a
48.
decrease, so well, it's gonna be different than 77.2%, whatever your spreadsheet says.
It says 81.9%.
And also, obviously, I think important point, or whatever we do is that these are things are coming from the free cash and the capital plan.
Yep. And I would say with the, debt exclusion, the exception of the debt repayment as opposed to debt exclusion, because debt exclusion implies that we
Yes.
financed it
Mhm.
outside of the levy.
Yeah.
So if I said, with the exception of the debt repayment for building Tohoto,
Mhm.
Yes,
Nice, nice.
that's important.
Kristen, do you think you could add, like a 10% enlargement on that? And I might have a chance of
Absolutely.
being able to read it.
Yeah, I'm reading it down here, 'cause
Well, but
I'm
she's,
reading it down here too.
but she's got she's the scribe,
Oh,
so
yeah,
this is
so
what
she
we need
can-
to look at, is what she's got.
Whoa, look at that.
I can actually see it now.
that
Well, you
out.
could, yeah,
Although,
you could go a little bit smaller, we can see both margins, but that's very helpful, and I
I
can now
can't,
read it.
yeah, let me go down, because I'm not able to move the thing that's
That's
showing
fine.
up on there.
That's fine.
All right, just keep
I
going
don't
down a little bit.
Actually, if you close the window with the little line. if you-
That's not on my computer. That's on the Zoom computer, I think. Because my computer, that's not there.
Ah, look at her, she's
Oh, see,
she's
you're
an
on it.
IT genius,
I
watch,
love it.
watch this.
Got all these tech people around me. It's fantastic.
No hesitation, next.
Just have
I
to
love
drag
that.
it down. Look at me. I just
Minimize
yay.
it.
I just resigned myself to it. And Julie's like, absolutely not. I'm going to fix it. Go, Julie. I like it. All right, there we
I
go.
don't
Thank you.
understand that first sentence, I'm sorry.
Thank you, thank you,
Which
thank you.
person?
No, capital assessments,
Go,
yeah, capital assessments are recommended with the decrease of,
yeah, I mean, what I was trying to say is, what should be also in there is saying, referring to decrease versus FY '24.
So,
Um,
it's the request for capital, or no, actually, capital assessments is right, sorry, yeah.
Does that work?
recommend capital assessments decrease by 51K, 126 from fiscal '24.
Maybe it's not the best sentence to lead.
And have we actually
Lead
recommended that? Like, have we taken a vote?
Actually, again, you're
Mm,
right,
oh,
Max,
yeah.
we've only done one of the two.
I just don't think we want to have this saying something
Yeah,
that
no, you're
didn't
right.
happen.
Yeah, maybe we just take that whole sentence out.
Mhm.
You could leave the capital assessments out, we don't have to comment on everything here, this is our
Yeah.
choice about what to comment on in our report. And under the circumstances, it makes sense to not comment about the capital piece.
Just
Just go with the.
trying to understand.
No, it's good.
Well, we don't
So we
wanna,
can't really say, yeah, you're saying you can't say the 427 recommended capital assessment?
Right, because we didn't recommend it, you didn't recommend it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the actually, Rick's salaries now have more than available for the finance committee's recommended free cash policy, which would only allow for,
Could we say something like the BMS capital
yeah,
assessment?
we have to remove the 427-209 recommended capital assessment line, because obviously we aren't recommending anything yet. Right after, yeah.
Scott, could we say the BMS capital assessment request remains under consideration? Or remains, our,
Could we just say that we're waiting on information before we,
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's like, what we should say about, it's like, the,
I'm just, to keep going, I'm just writing something up, and you can,
okay.
thank you.
the final details of, the capital assessments were late as of the writing or whatever, or do you want to even?
you could do that too.
Because in reality, none of this should even be a case of, we, no, I mean, they're late.
That could be the very first sentence. The school district's capital assessments were late in being presented or
To the
requested or-
the capital planning.
Yeah, to
committee.
the capital planning committee. Just make that statement,
Yes, yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Full stop. Then the next line would be,
Yeah, because I don't want it to just sound like we just didn't have the information. I want to be clear that,
Could you even make that the first sentence in the paragraph?
that's what I,
Because-
that's where it should be,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's affecting everything that's come
Everything.
behind it.
yes, exactly. I think, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the, that would be the perfect lead.
Request is 16% and more than funding available. Free cash guidelines.
is it free cash guideline, not policy?
It's guidelines. The document says guidelines at the top.
Okay, so just change policy.
Finance committees.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it-
Guideline sounds different than a policy. Well, I shouldn't say that. It is a policy, but guidelines make it clear that they can be broken under certain conditions.
Mhm.
so it says
Use
town
of free cash, use of cert, there you go.
It says town of Berlin, it doesn't say finance committee, it says town of Berlin. So I think we voted on it, we tinkered with it,
Did the
got it
select
together.
board vote on it, though?
I think they might have.
Okay, I like that, then we'll do Town of Berlin.
Well, that's what it says on the page I have, and
Then
that's.
we'll go with that.
Yes.
Mhm.
We will bring out the cloud of the whole town.
Town of Berlin, certified free cash guidelines. Shorthand of free cash guidelines. Here, I'll leave it up.
Yes, I misspelled there. I can't spell, that was good. I'm looking over at guidelines, there we go, use.
That sentence makes great sense now.
Oh, no, I missed
And
something.
15,000, more than funding, more than, you're missing a than. Than, not a that, a than.
How about a dab?
It's
More
good.
than
You
funding,
found a key you like. I like
more
that.
than
Funding,
the funding that is I know that's kind of
that is
clunky, but
available.
that is
in accordance.
available when following the Town of Berlin?
No,
No,
in
you
a-
like,
in a-
You don't need to add that.
Yeah.
okay.
in accordance with.
And do you need the next sentence then?
No.
Which sentence?
The one you have, yeah, the one you have that,
This one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of which, shouldn't it say free cash guidelines that would only allow?
I think you're right.
You're right.
Mhm.
I am
occasionally.
I have like a major like stumbling block. Like I'm a writer, but that and which is one of those ones that I get mixed up all the time.
It's okay.
So thank you. I need that sometimes.
I
Which
utilize
means
it.
that you have a bunch of things you're picking from. You only have one guideline.
That's right.
I
Right, that's why
utilize the
that is
word
correct.
grammar.
Because it's
Perfect.
specific to one thing.
Yeah.
Find that just to be as,
Hey,
It's like
Just gotta remember
I was an
sit
English
down, sat
literature
down.
major.
The witch has a lot of frogs and toads in her cauldron.
But that is just that.
It's
That's just
that.
one cauldron.
Got it. I like that. Now I'm not going to forget that because that's
You
fantastic.
gotta hang with the witches.
I like
telling
it.
you.
I roll with the witches all day long. All right, so does this read better now? Due to late submittals, the Finance Committee will make their recommendation on the BMS capital request at town meeting. The BMS capital assessment, why don't we just say capital request, is $543,132, a 16% increase over FY '24, and $115,923 more than the funding that is available in accordance with the free cash guidelines. Or how about,
I think I'm gonna break that sentence up.
Yeah.
I got an idea.
Way too long.
I like long sentences.
watch
I
this.
don't
I'm gonna
think
do-
you
I'm gonna
need
do
the that
magic.
would. I think
Yeah.
that all
I'm
that
doing
can go.
magic.
Yeah. And then
See,
in
the witches.
the witches, and then the first part of that paragraph, due to late submittals by the school,
Yeah.
or
Identify who the late
by
submitters are.
BBRSD from the district, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to say the school committee in all instances here, however, that's a bit, school committee.
Well, we have used, in the past there, we were using.
I was gonna say, I just saw above
BB
that you cited it already,
Yeah.
so.
BBRSD.
The
Yeah.
BBRSD.
Did we define that at some point?
We
Yeah.
can at
Yes,
the,
right here.
where did I do it?
There we go. Got it.
Oh, I think you want the other type.
Oh, let's see.
I was just trying to, did you use brackets or parentheses for the?
Where are you talking about?
When you shared what the abbreviation was, I was.
I don't think there's a slash between Berlin Boylston.
No, it isn't.
It's just Berlin Boylston.
Really, one word?
No, 2
No,
words.
space in between.
I don't know. I'm not sure if that 917,280 is still accurate from the, you can see that from your budget,
All right, let me,
see what the spreadsheet says. I mean, it's gonna be close. It's
I think it is.
Sorry, which number are you looking for?
the 917,280. Basically, this is taking, well,
Is it on the?
again, we probably aren't gonna be able to use it because we still have that.
Here? No.
Yeah, because
I
we
don't
don't
know
have a good
the-
recommended number.
I was gonna
we
say,
don't-
I don't know that number yet because of I don't have the BMS capital number, so I can't even say that.
Yeah, I mean, if you go down just a little bit further, it would be right. Well, so it would be just taking the requested number
Mm-hmm.
and then
Is
the.
that correct? It's only 2.4%.
Recommended number
Mhm.
in doing the difference. But of course, we have that oddity of the one that we don't have a number on, which.
The
is
combined capital debt thing, is that what you mean?
Yeah, and,
So you can't, yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and that also messes up your total budget
But the
percentage
one clear
too.
way, the one clear way, guys, here is to talk about operating expense.
well,
Just to really
yeah,
separate
the
the
one,
two out.
one key piece exactly is, that's the one bad thing is like these two lines. And that's where I'd even, like the very first line up there, right at the end of it, where after 2.4 says excluding non-school capital. Because the original one that was written, actually referred to saying excluding capital. But the only capital that's on this budget, on this part of the budget, on that is the school's capital because of those two line items. Because the rest of it is all, they're separate warrant articles.
Right.
So that's why I adjusted that one to say excluding the non-school capital, because the school capital is part of the rest of these numbers.
All right, I think I can fix this. If I put in 427,209, because that's what's left, and capital can decide if they want to go beyond that, it leaves 907, 298 in unfunded requests. So you're pretty darn close,
Yeah. So we can either put that whole number in or just say 900.
leaving,
'Cause I would like
Yeah,
to
that's good, yeah.
point out.
that way if it shifts
There's a
slightly,
lot
then
of
you're okay.
requests here, and it's like, people have asked for a lot more than recommending.
By the way, did that edit I did there, Scott, make sense? Not,
Which one?
as usual.
Is it
not
in or
all-
of? See, this is where I struggle with, in funding requests or of funding requests?
As usual,
You're
not
not-
all town department
Recommended
requests
leaving
are,
approximately.
Requests.
Yeah, that sentence, couldn't it just say, not all town departments are recommended? Not, excuse me, all department requests recommend. Do you need to say as usual? I mean,
Well, we're known as the tightwads, so.
as usual, we're tightwads, not.
I mean, there's a larger message that has to do that the schools and the town have this tension, right? The town departments and the school has this tension. And, you know, you're right, it really doesn't matter. Cliff, you're right. Fewer words are better, I think.
I don't know
How's
that it's
that?
a
I
big deal.
tried to,
So the town departments are separate from the schools, is that correct?
well, actually, that
Well, you-
900,000 includes the schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So,
how about not all
the school
budget
district
requests?
is not a department of the town.
No, that's right, and that's what I took
Yeah, all
what
budget
Scott wrote
requests.
to mean just the departments in the town. So
Yeah.
that number isn't right for just the departments.
No, that's taking the whole.
Well, this is a very important conversation
Yes.
we're having.
After we get this done, we could just set it out onto one of those face group posts and see how much people can misread and,
So does the 900K include the schools or not? I'm sorry.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, not all budget requests is a generic. number.
Okay. Because the school department the schools are not a department in the town. They are the schools.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the way to word this. Well, not all budget requests are recommended for funding.
Well,
I
you could
almost think
just,
that
you
should
could
be
just
two
say it,
sentences.
just start the sentence by saying approximately 900,000.
There you go.
In budget requests were not recommended.
Oh, well, it's right to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Gives the number,
yeah.
catches the attention.
Were not
A headline.
recommended by the finance committee
It's like a
for
headline.
fiscal '25. So we're doing our job. That's what we're doing here.
When the budget goes up, there's some moths should also fly up with it at the same time.
Well, I mean, and part of what we're doing there, but we're not recommended to balance the budget,
Yeah,
Well, and I think,
to balance with revenue. So it isn't like we're the tightwads, we're balancing it to the revenue, yeah?
correct, it also shows you're not spend happy either, because you left almost $1 million in requests on the table.
Exactly, this isn't like we're approved, yes, no, it's not like we're a yes man on, everything here in town, it's,
Well, do you add at the end, do you need to say in order to balance the budget, in order to balance revenue?
Oh, how about in order to present a balanced budget to town meeting?
Present a balanced budget to town meeting. There you go. Oh, Kristen, you make us look so good.
I try. You got 20 minutes left till it's 9 o'clock though, and
And
this
then
all
you're-
goes away, so I'm just letting, I'm
Then
giving
we're-
you fair warning.
And we're all jumping into the witch's cauldron at that point.
That's right.
we're doing good here, so I think we're good on the first, opening lines.
And we didn't do merit increases this year, we just did market increases, so I took the merit out.
Okay, good.
If I might, one little thing in the very first sentence, in the first paragraph.
Yep.
I'm going backwards, I know. In your parenthetical, excluding non-school capital, can you just say including school capital? You kind of have a double negative, which are really
Ah.
hard to read.
Yes.
Could we just say including school capital?
Yeah, that'll work.
And then yeah, thank you. Sorry, a little,
Yeah, you're right, I had to think about that for a second.
I,
I like double negatives, but they do make you think.
that's why you like them, they make
That's
you
right.
think, but we don't want to make
That's the
the voters think.
mathematician in me, throw out that.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted
Fair
the flow
enough.
there, but.
No, that's all
you're
right.
Good-on-Cola Regional School District.
The district has, it's a singular.
It is,
It is an entity, it is singular.
What did you say?
The Berlin-Boyson Regional School District
Oh, yes.
has proposed.
you're gonna be sorry you offered to be the scribe.
Actually, I think that's where you should put the parentheses for the abbreviation.
I like
That's
it.
right.
Yep.
Spoken like a lawyer there, Julie.
Oh.
First instance.
I
is
didn't
when
know
you-
that was a
The
lawyer
first
thing.
instance.
First instance in a document.
Hereinafter referred
Well, the
to
first
as.
instance-
It's in the first paragraph, but you
it'd
don't
be
want to
lo-
do it
But it'd be
there.
lost in the first paragraph.
Correct. Very smart. I want to say something about notable items.
Oh, what I didn't put in here.
I know what we need to do. We requested a level services on expenses.
Yeah.
Because last year, remember, we said people could go up 2.5% on expenses, and this year we said level services.
Across the town budgets, the town departments.
Yep.
So the request was for level service budgets.
From all town, requested a,
I got it.
yep,
Is COLA an abbreviation? Is it C period, O period, L period, A?
I always did it as COLA, but I've seen it both ways.
Just that, I'm not invested. I just wondered.
remind me, did you teach English?
Yes.
I did.
Well, yes. There's that English component all about them there. Then afterwards, we have to hand it in, we'll get back our
But why do
grade
I- but why do I ask?
67.
Well, I love my red pen.
But why do I ask? We should have you typing.
No.
We wouldn't even have to correct it, it would just, it would
For
just flow
3 years,
right
I
out.
had to write the school district report for
Oh,
the town meeting.
yeah.
Really.
The only bad thing is, once he got done with it, instead of being like a 2-page, it'll probably be like, 8 or 9 pages, because
There we
like
go.
have to be much more.
That was a good
More
catch there,
flair.
Kristen, on the expenses.
This may not be worded totally properly, but I'm just trying to get down the idea.
One thing I wanted to also remind, put in, we should mention, because I also like, always want to highlight big differences in the fact that Assabet was down significantly. We need a paragraph for Assabet.
Do we want that first, so we, because that's quick, and say
Yeah.
that they
we
were,
can do it.
Yeah.
Assabet, regional, vocational, technical, high school?
High school.
So we had less students.
Yeah, but I mean, what we could basically indicate is, it was down, well, 83.7K or 84K, and down 11.9%. And we should also make a mention of the new capital stabilization line item. It's only 9K, but the fact that it's new.
That's a good point. That's really good.
This is how all my stuff starts out with.
It's not even
notes all
projected
over the place.
enrollment, they know, right?
What was that?
Assabet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They have a pretty good idea, but I think it is projected. I think when it comes to like the ninth graders, it'd be projected, right? but pretty clear.
They
they
Yeah.
have
gotta
a
be on
capital
that.
stabilization account that they established.
Oh, that's right, we
Yes.
should put that.
Yes, that's where the new line item, the new capital stabilization is on there. It's only 9K our share, but the fact that it's totally new,
Yeah,
and I think it's 250,000 is what their target was,
yeah,
right?
as well as their OPEB, yeah.
That's not right. Alphabet has asked its member communities to create a capital stabilization fund to plan for future costs, or save for future costs. For future costs.
Capital costs.
Building costs?
I thought
Well, they
it said
say
more
the
maintenance.
right here is, this is their wording, let's see. Warrant articles help with the creation and support of a capital improvement plan for the school district, which should be governed by the school committee.
The section they cited talks about capital projects, you know, the
Yeah,
over 10,000. We talked
Other than
about that.
building projects, it's maintenance and roof
Capital,
replacement
well,
and
it's
Mhm.
stuff like that.
items that cost more than 10,000
Yeah.
are part of your salaries and
Yeah.
Mhm.
recurring operational expenses.
and basically their rationale was, their past capital improvements were usually funded through out-of-district tuition, and that is basically going away since there's less and less out-of-district students, since so many district students are taking up the slots, leaving nothing for out-of-district.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so we have an article on that point. Thank you. That it is important to put it in here.
Are they adding OPEB this year? No.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry, they're not asking us. Do they have to ask us for that? They may not.
I don't know, did they? Interesting.
Because that's part of their overall budget. I don't know, that's, yeah, Don't ask tough questions. You only have 12 minutes left. I'm just
So,
kidding.
do we say here that we recommend, this request?
Yeah, it should.
I like that.
All right.
Okay.
And then what I was kind of getting at here was Finance Committee and the Select Board sent a joint letter to the district in November. Just say November. Asking the district to stay within a 2.5% increase when submitting their FY25 budget. Something like that.
Yep. Nicely done.
I went the wrong way.
Just use your back arrow.
Wasn't that March 22nd? You got the actual,
Well, March 22nd is the deadline.
But the assessment letter came on the 20th, right?
22nd.
Did it come on the 22nd?
and I thought you, wasn't it slightly different from what
Yes, it
they
was.
discussed earlier?
How about this? The town did not
Well,
receive.
they did their vote on the 19th, so didn't they give it to us the day before? Kristen, yeah?
Yes,
So it would have been on the 18th.
but,
But because they didn't actually officially present
right.
it until they presented the letter.
So it's not officially
You're
their numbers
right,
until-
you're right.
But that's the deadline, so I don't want to penalize them for submitting it by the deadline. Yeah, I almost, that's a little complicated.
Mhm.
What if we just do,
Well, you could just say the finance committee never received. And that's true, the finance committee never received. Requested budget, a draft proposed budget. Just no, never received the budget, forget about to discuss, we never.
Or had an opportunity to meet with them to discuss it. Really? Did we?
Well, they came last December.
They came in
with-
December.
Yeah, with
December.
a
With-
wish list?
With the above level services, but not with the
Right,
level
would
service.
not even, first of all, it
Never,
was,
how about never
was-
received a proposal consistent with, the 2.5%?
right,
Mhm.
and on top of it, what they gave in December, they didn't even attempt to try and give rough numbers broken down by Berlin's share.
Mhm.
It was just completely, here's Tohoto, here's BMS, of course they had BES, but we don't care about that. But it was leaving for us to try and figure out Tohonto's, and, I mean, not that we can't, but at the same time, it was still, you're presenting to Berlin, show us Berlin's numbers.
Mhm.
Now, do your take out the calculator, show us the percentages.
So, proposal or presentation, rather than saying from the district in the middle up there, Kristen, could we say BVRSD?
Sure.
because- Or school committee? I have a concern that I think this needs to be understood by the public, that the obstacle was not necessarily the district. We had great cooperation from the district in the October, November timeframe. They did meet with us, and they did answer questions, and questions and answers were rational. But somewhere by the first part of January, we have the letter from Superintendent Costello saying, well, it's too early. So I think it's a little murky who the actor is here, and that's why at least say I wouldn't call out the district as being responsible for the failure to communicate,
That's fair.
right? So I don't know how you nuance that in this, or I don't know how others feel, I'm talking a lot.
So the letter was to the district, not the school committee?
It was to both.
Both,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd mention both then. Joint letter to the regional district and committee.
Kristen, is that the first place where you mentioned the Berlin-Boylston Regional?
You know what I was gonna
No.
recommend is that
Okay.
you make the title where it's bold, Berlin Boylston Regional
Oh,
School
yes,
District,
thank you.
and then in parentheses, put BBRSD. And then it'll be
Sounds good.
right there at the,
Nicely done.
Perfect. All right, so the Finance Committee and the Select Board sent a joint letter to the district and the school committee in November asking the school committee to stay within the 2.5%, within a 2.5% increase when submitting their FY '25 budget. The Finance Committee never received a full budget proposal or presentation from the school committee. Final numbers provided on March 22nd far exceed the requested 2.5% increase over FY '24. And then you launch into your explanation. Do we want to put a percentage in there? Like,
oh, you should make that FY '24, not, because elsewhere you're just using the,
good call.
okay.
Could that sentence that says the finance committee never received a full budget proposal or presentation from the school committee and never had an opportunity to sit down at the table and have a conversation with them? Do we not want to say that?
Actually, one piece I was on there was like, they had it's like, how do we, the fact that there was a lack of participation by them showing it to me. They showed up at our December meeting with this vague
Yes.
description, and then after that, they just declined to meet with us.
So,
Yes, I think there needs to be some way we can,
Communicate that, but.
yes.
We're not afforded the opportunity to discuss,
So,
to meet to discuss the budget request?
so why don't we start that sentence and say the school committee or BBRSD?
Oh, this should start the sentence, right?
The school committee, no.
No?
The second sentence there.
Yeah, it should
This
be the
right.
first one.
So I would say BBRSD failed to collaborate or cooperate with the finance committee in arriving at a budget for fiscal year '25.
I like that.
So you're not taking, I don't want to go so flat-footed as say, oh, they failed to,
I think you gotta be very careful about what you put out
Yeah.
in the written words.
Well, of
And
course.
And I think that those few words, I think, say the problem. They failed to collaborate with us
I
to
think that should
develop
go
a mutually
first.
agreed upon budget.
Yeah, I like that sentence a lot better.
And final numbers provided by BBRSD. Or BBRSD's final numbers, whatever. No,
Yeah, that sounds better.
presented on March 22nd, presented to the town on March 22nd. Yeah, so it just speaks to the gap, yeah. It doesn't wonder why, just says, here's the gap. And then that's why you see the numbers, that's why you see the problem.
Can you whip up that percentage, Scott, or do I have it in my, I'm thinking rather than saying far exceed, we should,
Well, you just say exceeded, they requested 2.5% increase and presented a something percent increase.
Final budget numbers provided to town exceed the requested 2.5 increase. Wow.
Actually,
Oh,
after
what
March,
an average, I mean,
March 22nd, what's the percent that they went up?
if you went,
Provided to the town, increased by what?
if you went by their increase, for the, we said 2.5%.
10.5 for Tohoto.
Yeah, it was.
But the
well, what did I
problem is they
read?
put the 383,000 into their baseline for doing the calculation.
Oh, I
We
have
go
that
in
on the
without
spreadsheet.
We do the percentages without their
I know, but what they
baseline.
presented to us had it in there, making their increase look smaller.
So BMS was 14.9%.
It's 857,235 is the number. So what is that percent?
What was the number for
Percent change. 10.2% is what I'm coming up with.
which one over? the
Overall.
combined? Oh, combined?
Here, let me share this with you. Look at this and tell me if this makes sense, because at this point in the night, I'm not as good with doing the numbers. Hold on one second.
I did them by individual. Let me see.
Well, remember this fun spreadsheet?
Yeah, I got that up.
Well, what was the 2.5%?
Okay,
Go back to,
so see, you've got,
10.2%?
this was their total request, 8.2 million was their total request in FY '24. Their total request in FY '25 is the 9091. Actually, let me just check the letter to make sure that's correct, because we had that letter, the assessment letter, rather. I'm almost positive I matched it up, but I just want to make sure before we.
Is this helpful, Scott, while you're calculating?
actually, I'm
Oh, she's
looking
got it
at the
up.
moment here.
9091718. 9091718. Okay, so the requested increase for FY '25 over FY '24 is 838,142, or a 10.2% overall increase, is what I'm coming up with.
So Kristen, is your basis with or without the free cash money?
Without.
Without, so it's 10.2% without.
Correct. My
Okay.
base starts at 3.9, not 4.3.
Got it, okay, just to be
Mhm.
really clear on that.
All right. So going back to the letter, I would say, presented on March 22nd, represented a 10.2%
10.2%.
increase, far exceeding the 2.5 we asked for.
Anybody want this insect?
So what is, you said the combined is, you're coming up with 10.2?
Overall, 10.2%
Only
increase over fiscal year
The only reason I say
24.
that is
This
like
one's
my
a
numbers,
stick box.
when I have them separate, the BMS was 14.9 and the Tohoto was 10.5.
That's right, that's
They
correct.
also have the
Here.
capital.
Here's Scott.
Oh, yeah, but I wasn't
They're right here.
doing the capital.
4.9,
number.
10.5, it's all right here.
Yep.
So then Kristen comes to a,
Oh, she puts,
Total.
she combines them with capital.
yeah, and this is the basis that we would use for fiscal '24 without the 383,000 free cash.
Yeah, no,
So,
and
so these numbers are,
first of all, it's being very generous by combining them, especially, for example, the debt repayment. I mean, that makes it, those things make those numbers percentage-wise smaller than they
Well,
should be.
they do, but if you look at the total number of the 9 million versus, for FY '25 versus our $8 million assessment, the total assessment number is over $800,000 different. So
Yes.
that is a 10% increase. But if you want me to present it differently, I think you break it down more later.
I think people will understand this,
Oh.
but once, we live with these numbers, so we.
Yeah, I don't
we
even think
know.
we need to provide the
They don't live with
commentary.
these numbers.
We just provide the facts. The facts speak for themselves. So if you say they failed to collaborate with the FinCom to develop a mutually agreed upon budget, we sent a joint letter in November asking them to stay within a 2.5% increase. Their final numbers represent a 10.2% increase over FY '24. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah, that's fine.
straightforward, I think.
Yeah.
Oop, sorry, jumped out again.
and you did this sheet on a quiet day when you had time to think about things, so
Yes.
we can rely on.
Yes,
that
as
work.
opposed to now or at
Well,
the
it's-
select board meeting when I'm trying to like pound out
Yeah.
numbers, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Now, they would disagree with that because they're starting at a higher number. But
Yes, but
that number on their end would take out the 383.
yeah,
I'm including the 383 as part of the increase because we were not planning on including that number in the FY '25
yeah.
budget.
And if they want to argue about that on town floor, I'm more than willing to get up for last year's letter and have that argument, because I don't think that's an argument they want to have on town floor.
All right, in FY '24, town, I might just say town meeting approved an additional 300, one-time free class.
the brackets are stuff I took out when I was editing, by the way. That's why you see brackets.
Okay.
I was trying to, yeah,
I
those
don't know
are.
how I
the-
feel about
the
large
box elder vote,
exposure.
What was that?
I'm not sure about large exposure. What if we say due to,
Anticipated, you could just
An
take a potentially large exposure due to an anticipated out-of-district, large anticipated. There you go.
I hate those bugs, and out-of-district special education tuition.
That bug landed on me,
So-
and now I smell like a stink bug.
I think they smell like fresh cut grass. No? I guess I'm weird. I don't know.
They have it is a fresh smell.
It is a weird, I felt like it smells like grass. I don't know why, or long
I think
clippings
it's-
of some
I think
sort.
it's- Yeah, I think it's closer to that one. They're different than the other one.
They are. These are apparently from Virginia. They're not actually the normal stink bugs. They're some weird global warming infestation.
I was gonna say they're vacationing here.
I think
or-
that's a hexanol.
Welcome to
um,
global
I
warming.
think it's a hexanol molecule that is that fresh.
Oh, is that
I'll
what
look
it
that
is?
up. I think it is.
I only did Chem 101. I realized after that I was
It's-
not meant to be a
it's
doctor, so hence
It's late.
here I
It's
am
late.
running
Don't let me
town.
do this to you.
We understand the increase didn't materialize as anticipated.
Scott, how clear are we that this actually is what went down?
Well, only thing, first of all, this is part of the problem, is their lack of transparency on this one. The only thing I can go by based on the numbers is, if you look at the presentation, they reduced BMS's out-of-district special education by over $500,000. Okay, and also if you look at Tohonto's, it wasn't like, it just moved from a fifth grader, went to sixth grade, and that's why it, and then you'd expect to see that big. It was almost flat at Tohonto, and not nearly a big number like this. So, but this is where a lack of, explain it to us. They know what they gave to them, and they don't want to come up and say what happened.
No, and at the school committee meeting the night they had the vote, I asked about, I point blank asked about this. Did we ever get the students? And the special ed coordinator woman said something to the effect she wasn't comfortable talking about it in the public setting, and I said, sure, I understand. But, you could give us numbers,
You
that's not a
shouldn't,
problem.
right, exactly. Probably the way bad description you used was referring to, did he get the students? What was what is the spending?
I
Well, I
think
could
we
have asked
should
you.
leave,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the second sentence is a bit dicey. I almost think we should leave it out.
What's the
So,
second
so
sentence?
could we say, we understand circumstances
Changed?
changed, and the BMS budget for fiscal '25 has, reduces this expense. It's not they don't give us line items, but it's an expense item by that amount. Are you more comfortable with that, Kristen?
I kind of think that sentence should just go,
I-
because.
We don't have proof.
Well, that's my,
Well, actually, the only thing I put
Disease.
on there on the one only proof we've got is out-of-district special education is decreasing by over 500,000. That's what is in their budget at BMS.
That is true.
That is a
That
fact
true.
number. I would like to see that part kept in. Maybe any other assumptions on it, but I would just like that particular fact number to be included.
I think the important sentence is the next one where it says, contrary to the agreement reached by the town of Berlin and Berlin-Bosen Regional School District, which keeps moving.
Sorry, I'm trying to make you seasick.
To close this unexpected one-time funding gap with the town's free cash funds, the district added these free cash funds to the baseline. I think that's the important sentence. I'm not gonna argue that.
so let's see, we got,
There's
for
more to it than
fiscal
that.
'25, this expense item decreases by over 500K in RSD's budget?
Yeah, in BMS's budget.
Oh, in
the
BMS's.
budget. This is where you can,
Yeah.
right here, BMS.
Oh, God, there it is. You're right, Scott. You're absolutely right. 82% down. This is barely one student, or it's a bunch of students
Who
that they
knows? I
don't
have
need
no
much.
idea. Break
It's
it
hard to
down.
know.
It's hard to know, yeah.
But
That's
the
a,
big point is, you go to Tohonto, district tuition, I mean, the things are,
it's pretty steady.
It's
What does
flat.
Boylston look like? Again, say it's about the
Pretty-
same. Yeah.
you know.
So something happened at
Right,
BMS.
I mean, and this is the number we were talking about. This is what the late number came in
Yeah,
last
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and we came to an agreement to work on that. Clearly, that has changed. I mean, it's there in their budget. I mean, that's the only reason I'd like to, it's like, it's using their number, they're presented,
Yeah, you're,
But, I mean, again, it's.
but we have to be careful about what
Yeah, I
we
mean,
do
I can
know. And-
understand-
And what we do know is that decreased. It's an expense, it's a category. Is that what they call it? What's the caption on that?
Budget comparison,
Expense category. So that was an expense category that decreased, this expense category. So, Kristen, up in that third line, I know she's writing, she's writing while we're writing.
Go ahead.
In the third line, the expense item, could we call that the expense category? Third line in the
I
paragraph.
like category better, yeah.
Well, that's what's in their budget category.
So how's
I mean,
this?
this
In the
is-
FY twenty-five BMS budget, this expense category decreases by
Yep.
over
I
500K.
remember seeing that. Yeah,
Right.
I do remember seeing that.
So if you read between the lines as a voter, you can say, wonder what they did with that money.
And that's sort of the art of this, right?
Mhm.
Because the minute you start to put commentary in,
Mm.
it's
Yeah, you have to be
very
careful.
easy for people to think it's political or
Right.
personal or subjective. So if you just stick to the facts,
Yeah, and that's what I
And
say,
you
just
can piece
stick
it
with the
together.
numbers. Right, stick with the numbers.
numbers don't lie.
Yes,
Except when you're in statistics and you manipulate them to do so, but we're not doing that in this case.
Okay, contrary to the agreement reached between the town of Berlin and the school committee to close this unexpected one-time fiscal year 24 funding gap with the town's free cash funds, the district, BBRSD, has added these one. I
almost think
never
this is a
want to
little
call the
wordy.
district out in this for,
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm so used to calling it the district.
yeah, and I feel for you, but. Right. Has added these one-time funds to the baseline for determining the town's operating assessment increase in fiscal '25. The districts, the BBRSD's requested increase of 583 represents a 14% increase over a total increase of more than the finance committee top of
Is that 14.9 the right percent?
yeah, it's in Kristen's worksheet
okay,
here in
just-
the
I just wanted to
budget
make
roll.
sure.
Yeah,
Because we throw,
that's the BMS
as the
assessment.
new numbers change, right,
Yep.
you
Yeah, I
worry
know.
about like, well, the percentages will down.
Yep. It is.
These base numbers are, the assessments never change though.
So this is calling it out where you had that combined number that you were objecting to. This calls out the details, the two schools.
Yeah,
And it tells you that this is year two that we're having these very large increases.
right, exactly. I think it's important to point out, they had big increase last year. And again, even that 9.1, I mean, if you wanted to, you could say what it is based, if you added in free cash, it's even higher, right? But I'm being generous, or at least felt generous by saying 9.1 and mentioning that, but that doesn't include the 383,000 free cash. Yeah, I think if you call them out on the bigger increase on it, then you let less credibility to try and say that's,
I think,
their base is off.
in last year's letter, at some point, we talked about inflation. We talked about that stuff. I thought we did around the school budget in last year's, because I felt that there were financial reasons last year why the budget increase for the schools was appropriate, and I don't think they're in place this year. And we had positions coming off, temporary funding, grant money, ARPA monies, that kind of thing. Last year, we needed to, and fiscal '22 to fiscal '23, inflation ran 8.2%, September to September. So, but that's not the case this year.
Yeah, I had removed the section, we mentioned about, inflation, and I did remove the comment on inflation.
Well, which is appropriate, because it's not what it was.
Must not,
I'm just playing around with this.
I
Don't mind me.
brought
Have a good
the
time.
new
Thanks.
copy I printed out, but I don't think I brought the old.
Oh, I'm gonna have to either get a plug, or am I running low here? How much battery do I have here? 9%. Okay. Let me get out of some
Do you
of
need
these
a power
apps.
cord? I can go talk to Roger and get it for you.
I need one for my laptop. I don't know if he's gonna have one that matches
What,
mine.
what do you have?
A Dell.
But is it like the newer, does it,
Yeah, it's like a 2019. I have one in my office.
oh, this is a
but-
2018.
Oh,
What, do you have the, is it using a USB or?
thank you, Roger.
No.
It's a little round
The round
thing.
one?
Yeah.
Does this round one
Ooh.
work? Let me get the other pieces. Oops, sorry.
Okay. Let's
My
see.
arms are long.
That would be cool.
And here's the other,
Check that out.
and here's the rest.
No
The
way.
important part.
You got a Dell as well?
You just knew we were gonna need that.
Oh, you just-
I was being, I was
got a
being
bag of parts?
optimistic. Don't let me walk off with
It's
I'm
a-
sure,
it's a
I
Swiss
thought you were in there
backpack
falling
here.
asleep, but you're actually
Is
listening
he a
to
plastic
us.
fork or knife? I probably have that here too.
It works. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I hope it's
Just
better
don't let
than
me
watching
walk off
paint
with your
dry.
cord, thinking it's mine.
Those I actually have a lot of, but yeah, I won't,
It's nice that sometimes they make
What's that little battery
functional
backup thing?
interchangeable
was
parts for
Is that
no,
computers.
it's the
You think
power
they're all
supply.
like,
Oh, it is
Well,
just
it's
specific,
nice 'cause
right?
I have like 2 Dells at home and I can switch, like, I
I
can
didn't-
move them around and I don't have to move the plugs around.
yeah, I didn't even know you could do
The
that.
bad thing is the newer ones now just use USB-C.
Oh, yeah.
So,
They're trying to be like Apple.
and the USB-C connector is built all into the main power supply, so it, yeah.
All right, perfect.
Hmm.
All right. You want to read this paragraph and tell me what you think? I did a little wordsmithing. Maybe we need to say something like.
Yep.
I mean, we need to spell it out a little bit, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise that sentence is disconnected.
Because otherwise you're like, what?
Yeah, no, that pulls it in. That makes it cohesive.
It's 9:16.
I'm doing good. I'm surprising myself. Wait a minute, which number's right there?
The top to request operating assessment increase of 10% of F24 or more than an increase. This is the top of the 8.9 increase. Yeah, those numbers are right. Oh, 335.
It's 3,542,292, right?
Wait, so what was it worth 3 million? I mean, 335, 911, you're
Oh, are we
talking?
talking, what are we talking?
What number? I mean, this is referring to
Tohoto
the
requested
Tohoto
operating
assessment, the operating assessment, which was,
Oh, 335,911.
Yeah.
Got it. The Tohoto requested operating assessment increase of
335911.
a 10%, 10.5% increase over FY '24. Or 200 and, got it. Is it raining?
Yeah. Could you say this is in addition to, is on top of, is a rather colloquial expression? I mean, we all understand it, but.
yeah.
Hey, come on, it's a Wisconsin expression. Don't be,
I like
don't
it,
be
but
derogatory. It's, you know,
If I was doing that, I'd have a you betcha in here too.
why not?
don't you know? Oh, that's Minnesota. Sorry, got the wrong state. All right, I think that works.
Oh, here's the meaningful dialogue piece.
I just let it all flow. That's why it was in red. Now it's looking like a rant, you know, I like that.
I mean, I like it.
I felt really
I just
good.
think we might have touched on it now because we did the rewrite above.
Well, the rewrite above really delivers the message.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a rant that I wrote, so I don't know that I think it belongs in here.
Let me delete it.
I'm happy to give it up.
What,
Well,
do we
what
talk
else is
about
in that
recommending
paragraph?
anywhere in here?
what else is in there?
That you
just-
do not recommend the budget, and then it says need something here on the school's lack of participation in the budgeting process, missing dates, not participating, canceling me. I think
I can't read it when you gray it. I don't
Oh,
know
I'm
why you
sorry.
grayed it. Yeah, right, so, blah, blah, and expense categories.
Give me just a moment, unfortunately, I have to
For these
step out real quick.
reasons, the finance committee does not recommend. Is that what we want to say here?
sorry.
What does the next paragraph say? Is it gonna be the same topic?
No, it sort of,
Okay.
but we covered it up here, I think, right up front, that when we talked about the fail to collaborate with the finance committee to develop a mutually agreed upon budget for FY '25, that, ooh.
Taxpayers.
Alrighty.
That adds a little more to it. I mean, that's a really iterative process, right, where that didn't happen this year.
No dialogue.
Yep.
I don't know that we need the rant.
We don't need the rant. I've already yielded on that.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank you for,
but-
thank you for putting it out there.
It's valid, though. I think we got to it.
Yeah, well, in a much more elegant way. I needed to like
That's what I do when I write. I just let it go.
clear
flow.
that out so that I could get to
When I
the,
was teaching writing, I used to say, okay, just let it go. Just let it all out there. Don't punctuate, don't capitalize, don't do anything. Just get that out there.
public safety. So. Is
Maybe
that?
we just want to put some points in here, and I could flesh it out. One thing is we've
is-
reduced.
I think this is from last year, this
It
stuff in
is.
yellow, isn't it?
It is. So I think that's important to note, that we're trying to reduce the payroll
Yes, yes.
component that's coming out of mitigation. Huge increase in fire due to a one-time reset. I mean, I could talk a little bit about that.
You didn't miss anything, they just took my rant out,
Oh, okay.
which is just as well, that whole paragraph's gone.
All right, are we on public safety now?
Yeah, and I was just making some little notes, like that we reduce the dependency on, or dependence on the mitigation fundings by funding 2 police officers instead of 3. And there was a huge increase in fire due to a one-time reset with the new union contract.
Right.
And then I could talk a little bit about capital. It's pretty straightforward.
And the other thing on police is, it funds
connected.
it now adds in the other half of the full-time employee that was added mid last year or mid this year. And it's adding another full-time
Recording
employee
in
at the
progress.
midpoint.
Did we all
correct.
just get kicked out? I'm sorry, I think we all just got kicked out of Zoom somehow.
We're back in now.
I don't know what I did.
Also, didn't fire increase
Okay, no, we're all, looks okay.
Yeah.
personnel?
That was really weird. Sorry, I don't know if it was a network blip or something, but
I can't recall.
yes, no, not increased personnel, but we went up significantly in the contract because of the union
Yeah.
union contract negotiations.
Yeah, so it
There we
was,
go.
fire reflects the new union contract. And police, essentially you've got another full-time police officer's salary added to the budget, because we had FY '24 added 1/2 of a new hire, So we already were picking up the other half of that new hire, and FY '25 is going to add another half of a new hire also. So essentially, you end up with.
Don't know if
so
you
the-
guys can hear me or not, but there's no volume on your end.
We can hear you.
I heard you. Can you hear me? June?
Clearly she can't.
No, no volume.
Someone want to grab Roger?
Yeah. No.
No,
Make the person on crutches go.
I'm like, no. Wait a minute.
I don't know what happened. That was really weird.
Yeah, I'll run in. Nope. Still fresh, Julie.
It kicked me out of Zoom and then put me back in, so something happened, and I don't know what that was.
Let's do it.
All right.
that's a lot more than 2.
Because I can hear June and all of you.
Yeah, but June can't hear us. Here, let me send her a text.
Yeah, and I can hear I could only hear when Mary was talking through the mic.
You could?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sound's happening in this room.
I don't know.
We just have to look at the camera and see if people can read our lips.
It did kick out, it stopped recording and then.
Started recording again. Yeah, that was really weird. I don't know what happened. It was almost like a blip in the.
Well, all that
Network
rain went through and
connectivity.
that stuff, who knows what happened on the charter end.
Mm.
All right, so we want to add in fully funded the 10th officer and a half year of the 11th officer. That's
Yeah.
what you were starting to talk
Yeah,
about.
and that was that's the, like, essentially the 72K, or most of the 72K increase in police full-time, now full-time / part-time salaries.
Yeah, yeah, that also includes the step increases in the, all of that. But yes, the 72K increase in wages, okay.
I need you to share the screen.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Reserve fund, I can fill that out if you want. So we're gonna it remains level.
I would just remove, because that went up last year, I just kind of went through, looking at the main highlights of big
Oh,
things.
so if it didn't change,
It didn't change, so that can kind of just be removed. The highlights of things that would need to be, I think, pointed out is the COA, social workers salary line that is now moved completely to the budget. That's nearly a $40,000 increase. That was previously half of it being paid for by ARPA.
okay.
So
COA
that line item.
salary, completely, social services. Let's do COA. social.
I wrote down a lot of the piddly stuff here, but I think most of it I would ignore because it's too small, other than having it for our own notes if somebody asks.
All right.
Another big one is the legal expense going up another 25K.
Yep.
That was
animal
already on
control.
there before.
Yep.
We want to talk about the HR expense added line item, which is, well, now 55K, but also now expected, rolling in things like the vacation payout, replacement for salary, salary adjustments for any replacement hires.
Yep.
And we also moved, 25K of it being from what was supposed to be.
That's a good laundry list.
This is great. I mean, actually, honestly, this gives me enough to focus on where I could flesh it out a little bit, and then I could put it on the drive, and you all could take a look at it, if that,
Okay.
if that works for you, so
Yeah,
we don't
that's
have
fine.
to
Yeah,
stay here all night.
yeah, and then the, HR expenses, you may wanna point out, I think it
Yes.
came out with, when you were talking to the select board, that it's not a slush fund, you said that would have, any expense going through that
Yeah.
would have to get approved.
Exactly, this is right, there needs to be that further
Make it like
explanation.
very clear that this is not like
Yes.
just a random,
Yeah, and as I was talking about that too, because initially I think we talked about putting it in reports, and the more that I was talking about it with the select board, I understood their concerns, and I don't want it to have that appearance of a slush funded town meeting, because it's not, and we all know it's not, but if someone's just like 55K for what? I think it does make sense to get the approval of both boards
Yes.
before spending
and if you
anything.
have some examples from the last year or two where you had,
Vacation payout.
you know, things that you can't predict when you're putting the budget together.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned here was the vacation payout,
Increases to salaries for new
Revenue.
hires, advertising, new contractual obligations under union contracts. Yeah, I'll put that in there. Okay, perfect.
so that was all I had from the big, let me see, I mean, because after that, wait, we've got the highway wages, full-time up 64K.
Yep.
We want to talk about what the changes there on the highway.
Yep.
Want to add a new hire, I think the target is 48K of it for a new hire.
So there's a couple things at highway. So there's a new highway laborer, 2 seasonal laborers, and 1 temp plow driver.
Yeah, that's under the snow and ice part-time.
Yeah.
If things keep going, we won't need that plow dryer.
No, we'll need a bug killer.
That's on your wish list for next year, isn't it?
We'll need more,
Somebody come through.
more,
Do you need to,
Automatic bug swatters.
do you need to say anything about highway, the revolving fund with the,
Oh,
shared
the
with
bucket
Clinton?
truck? Yep.
Yeah.
Transfer
Yeah,
station.
yeah, the transfer station will be on a separate line item, but right, that was my section, I started writing in the accounting line changes. I don't know what terminology you wanna use, that was my terminology. Right after the stabilization fund on page 2.
Yep. That's where I'm adding it
I started going
in.
through them
Transfer station.
and other ones that need to be, so, again, I'm not sure if you even want to go and clean them up and say, put the line item number that goes with them, so that people can find
Sure.
them.
I might bullet it out.
I was not doing that, but.
Yeah, but it's gonna recommend a bulleted list.
Yeah, bulleted list and just kind of go through and clean them up. I don't know if there was other ones here. I mean, let's see, I think I had,
Those are the big ones, I think.
I think I had them all on there.
Do you think we have to talk about the rec one?
Oh, yeah.
Because that had a lot of
We
discussion.
did a lot of new things this year, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just now realizing.
Yeah, the rec one is.
It's a fun recap.
I mean, part of it is obviously related to an upcoming article regarding the CPA funds and for maintenance of the fields. We covered this one.
But with that one, also calling out that rec is using some of its own funds and worked with, God, it is late. Was it soccer and baseball?
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the things I've liked about seeing how rec's been working
It's
is
a combo, like
that when they're asking for money, but they're also trying to find other ways to fund what they're doing. So,
I like that.
I don't know if it needs to be mentioned too, is because they're small dollar amounts, but obviously the increase in elections
Oh,
this
that's
year.
the,
Did I spell your name right?
You did. You could have left Janet there.
Good.
Oh, I think one of them I'm missing there. No, actually, I do have it. Public building repairs, move the public expenses. I just didn't,
Yeah, those are all the
remove it
ones
on
that
my
I-
list here. I've done it.
pretty comprehensive list.
It's a good list. And actually, you know what, I like it because, I like it even better like that. We were able, I feel like, at least for me, it was my first time kind of making a little bit more of a mark on the budget of going, where can we consolidate? Where can we reorganize a little? Because last year and coming in, it was like so rushed because I came in mid-September. It took me 6 weeks at least to just finish meeting with everybody. And then it was like, do the budget. And so I didn't get to like dive into the operations and the numbers as much as I did this year. So,
She's already
it's
planning,
kinda cool.
going, it's like, this is good for my review time. So
That's
I have
right.
to
It's
write-
coming up next month.
Exactly.
We don't have volume, so it
If
doesn't
somebody-
really
If somebody
matter.
else can write it up for me, it's like, and use it.
So to your point, I'm looking back over some of my notes from our meetings, is that we had a number of places in software and systems where we were able to leverage across departments. And so there was I think, if we were, sort of summary comments that this year saw that kind of activity where we did that. And I don't know if there's anything else that generically,
Yeah, it's a consolidation of line items, sort of more,
Yeah, I didn't get into really too much of those, because unfortunately, most of them all end up being like small dollar amounts.
they are.
Streamlining.
Right, no, you don't want to
But-
put dollars on them. It's just the idea that you look for places to manage your funds.
looking for efficiencies. I like
Efficiency.
that
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, because I think,
And
I refer to them as reduced administrative costs, but I'm going, I don't know if there's really a
Oh, that's good, too.
financial dollar amount to put to it.
Right, yeah, no, I think I
Yeah.
think there really has been a lot that's come through in our interviews with people from departments. And then when you look at, like with highway and what to do with the part-timers, there was also efficiencies created there. And
Yeah,
the facilities, the grounds at Berlin Memorial. So I think positive comments, things that have happened this year. There's good, good cooperation within around the town departments.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't know, again, it's a small thing, but it was a conservation part-time going from 8 to 10 hours. I don't know if it really needs to be mentioned. It's so small on but this way, we have it written down. Well, hopefully people can read it, and people ask a question, you can go to the page. If you have your handout, please read this.
yeah, exactly.
Or I'll just read it for them, but everybody else has it.
Please
You
turn to
have
the
it.
back of your warrant where we summarize all of the changes.
Well, then I can remember things we did besides.
Right.
It's what I do at work anyways, most of the time. It's like, did you go over here? Did you bother reading this before you called me?
Okay, so I can work on that.
And you covered OPEB in the health insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Line item,
Yep.
okay. That's what I had.
I don't have anything else.
I don't have anything either. I think we're ready to,
Let's go home.
Yep.
all right, so, motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right. Scott, aye.
Mary, aye.
Cliff, aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
Excellent.